know what it is. My eye is really itchy tonight. Like in the last 20 minutes, it got really itchy.
20 Days of I,
Yeah, 20 eye days. Apple.
20 Days of Fire.
They should make a Steve Jobs zombie movie because both of those genres are just. They need to
Yeah,
make more of those.
yeah. There have been more Steve Jobs. There's been more Steve Jobs movies in the last several years than there have been zombie movies, and I'm not really sure why. I don't
That's
think
well, they're both dead.
he's the zombies are dead, and Steve Jobs is also dead. Is he a zombie?
Not yet, I don't think.
That's the question. He's not a zombie. He didn't get
He's not
bitten.
a zombie. No. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cyber Zone. I'm Michael,
Hello,
and I'm
hello.
I'm here today with America's favorite international sweetheart.
Yeah, it's me. I'm DJ Papa Balls, and I'm here today. And Michael and I have been discussing a lot of fantastic things that have been happening live in the world we live in. And I'm going to show you tonight how to smoke some things that I like to smoke a lot of
That's
in a
what
little
that's
bit.
kind of what you're known for is smoking
Oh yeah,
things.
yeah. It's a real big. The ladies, if you've ever been outside to the pub and you see a woman, she wants you to smoke something because it makes you look. Well, she knows you've got a lot of edge to you, and so if you smoke something, then she wants to be by your side at nighttime.
Now, is that how you started smoking? Was just like to impress a woman, or
Oh
what's
well, that's the thing. It's a common misconception. I like to smoke because it makes me look amazing, and the women see that and they think I look amazing, and they want to lay next to me during the night time.
that makes sense? That's yeah, that's it's foolproof, really.
Yeah, it's not bad, and it's nice because if you've ever, it's like alchemy. Alchemy means everything is made up of other things, and
Right. That's what it
there's
stands
certain
for. It's an acronym.
every it's an acronym that everything is made up of lots of other things. So right here, you've got sand, but also it's a talisman. It's in Japanese, and you're smoking. It means love and sand, and if you smoke them, you get both elements in your body, and it makes you take on the characteristics. Is what I like about it.
Oh, you can't smoke in here.
You know what? That's what they tell me everywhere I go, and I don't care. I still do it.
You're that's why you're you.
That's what I do. It's like if you walk into the zoo and you see an elephant and you say you can't be in here. This is and he goes. It doesn't stop him. He does it anyway.
Right.
It's
A lot of
not
people
trying
don't
to
know
make.
that. Is that in the UK at least, uh, zoos are elephant-free zones. They don't allow them. They're not allowed to be there.
No, you're not supposed to have those. Those are American only. That's where they started. That's where they're going to end.
Hmm.
But
Sorry, interference.
oh, it's okay. It's like as a football term, American football.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you watch that?
you know, I'm very high when I try to watch it, so I can't tell what's going on. To
Okay.
me, it looks like it's a lot of colors.
That's true. There are. Have you ever smoked a football? An American football.
Oh, I've smoked lots of footballs before. Every time I would import them, my friends would say, "We want to go out and try the American football game." I said, "Nah, what you've got to do is you've got to light it. I don't have one with me. You want to put it in front of your face and you want to light the end of it, and then you inhale. It's called pig skin, what they
Right.
call it. It's not really pig skin. It looks the texture is a lot like it's an elephant skin. This is why they don't allow elephants in the UK, is people try to smoke them. And I don't
Um,
competition there's one DJ Papa Balls, and if you try to change DJ Papa Balls into what everybody else is, there's no DJ Papa Balls.
does the same thing happen if everyone like? Are you worried that people are going to emulate you?
And no one can do that. They can try, but it's not going to happen. If you can name one person who's ever emulated DJ Papa Balls before, I'd like to meet him, but I don't believe he exists.
I can't think of anyone. I guess the closest I could think of would be Jim Varney.
He came really close. It was back in 1999. We were on set together, and he looked at me and he said, "DJ, what you've done is amazing. I would like to try." And I said, "I welcome that challenge." And he tried very hard. He didn't do it. And so DJ Papa Ball still reigns supreme. He had passed away. He tried so hard. He ended up dying. So it's just me now.
Right. And that's a lesson I think people should take away is don't do what they know they can't do.
Yeah, you can't be somebody else. It's not going to work. You're going to die. Jim Varney, consequently, he died.
He is a foolish, foolish man.
I respect him as an actor. I don't respect his decision to die. And it would have been alleviated completely if he just kept doing Ernest.
Instead of the DJ Pop-Up Balls movie that he was working on. A lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah, Robert Zemeckis and Alan Silvestri. It was going to be a smash hit. And when they invited me on set for consultation, I said, it's not going to work. That's Jim Varney. I respect him, but he's not this character. That's me. I'm the character, but I'm not even a character. It's me.
Yeah.
So I feel really bad. I really enjoyed his works. I think Ernest Slam Dunk was a fantastic film. It really showcased a lot of his acting ability as a scene where, no, I'm thinking of the wrong one. I think it was in a wrestling movie, and on the camera, you see his face and his leg comes up onto the camera as well because he's being assaulted by another wrestler.
Yeah, a lot of people don't, if they've only seen sort of like the core Ernest films, which would probably be Goes to Camp, Goes to Jail, and maybe Scared Stupid, they don't realize how athletic Jim Varney was.
Oh no, he's fantastic. He's actually he's got no bones. And the problem with trying to emulate DJ Pop-Bubble, he may have come close, is when he tried to smoke the various things, his bones didn't absorb the carcinogens properly, and so he passed away.
So you smoke for the carcinogens?
Oh yes. Everything has a different type. Some of them they give you elements, like I said, but the more you feel your body in pain, the stronger you get. It's like when you go to the gym, you become stronger because you're destroying your body slowly.
And you just do it much more quickly.
Itself. And so DJ philosophy is if you can destroy your lungs, you become more powerful when it comes to being able to breathe.
Well, what to do? Well, because breathing is the cornerstone of life, right? If you're not breathing, then you're dead.
I can breathe better than anybody.
So you're the most alive.
I'm the most alive person on the planet as of right now.
And Jim Varney is the opposite.
Yeah, he tried so hard. He's actually more deceased than even Adam from the Bible. He's been dead the longest of any man, according to the Bible.
Right.
Jim Varney is more dead than him. It's not my fault.
No, I think people need to stop blaming you also.
Yeah,
you got a lot of email.
Yeah, my inbox is full.
Of people
I
blaming
don't like that. I can't tell if I've got new email.
So what's next for DJ Pop-Up Balls?
I'm going on a world tour, and I'm going to go to all the bookstores and all the stadiums and show people that it's okay to smoke as long as you know what you're smoking. For instance, if you've never smoked before, it's easier to take a children's toy. This is the lad from Goonies. He's an Asian lad. It's not bad. It's not bad. You know, I've grown past this because it's for babies. But for me, this is like elementary school.
Right.
I've been there. I've started here. And this no longer affects me. You don't feed a grown man a can of Gerber.
That's true, yeah.
He's a different type of sustenance. And so I've moved on to very advanced things. So whereas a child might try to smoke a toy, I actually have moved on to smoking weights.
And that seems like it would make you double alive because it's an exercise. It's like going to the gym, but it's also like smoking.
Oh yeah, everything about it makes me stronger. My lung, I can breathe underwater now, and I can do 10 pull-ups at any given moment. It's very easy for me to show my physique in any capacity.
What is there anything that you is what's left for you to smoke? Is there anything that is just eluding you that you've always wanted to smoke?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things out there that is not within my reach. I don't have the budget to go to outer space. I could breathe there. It's no problem for me. My lungs have reached that capacity. But I can't smoke a Russian space shuttle because we don't have any out here, and I have no means to get up to outer space. I would like to smoke the moon, and I would like.
Well, you're
Yeah.
actually here to promote your Kickstarter to get you into space today, right? I don't know if it's me having technical difficulties with DJ Pop Balls, but the video feed seems to have paused.
Hello,
Hello,
are you there?
I am here. Hello.
All right, sorry about that. The connection in here is a little spotty. I think out in the hallway I was smoking some of the doors, and it got in the way of the Wi-Fi signal.
That makes sense.
It's a big problem for me. Yeah.
Well, I was mentioning that you're here today to promote your new Kickstarter to get you to space.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I am.
When did that start, and how much are you looking to raise?
Well, from the moment that I was born, I was asking for money to get to space, as I knew my destiny didn't. It was not here on this planet. It was way out there. So a much more. It's bigger than you and I, and so what I like to promote it by showing people that I'm not asking for your money. I'm asking for your support, and if money is part of that, if you've got a rocket and some fuel, that's fine. I could use that, but I don't necessarily need notes because they don't. I might just smoke them. It's the problem is you give me something and I'm going to smoke it, and if you give me coins and notes, then they're going to be smoked, and I can't spend them on rockets.
It must be difficult for you.
Oh yeah, that's why I haven't made it yet. I've earned over $14 million in U.S. notes, but I've all consumed. Benjamin Franklin, most notably.
And each of the notes, do they have distinct smoking properties?
Well, there's the new $20 notes and the old $20 notes in America, and one of them, the head is larger and he's offset. He's not in the center of the note, and it actually you lose balance. And in life, the biggest thing that you need to find is balance. And if you don't have that, what have you got?
$20.
You've got yes, you've got $20 extra, but what do you do with it?
Okay.
It does not send you to space, which is $20. Otherwise, I'd be in space.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this. It's in one of my new books coming out. I've got a trilogy coming out at the same time, and they're all the same book with.
The connection's gone out again. In the meantime, if you have any questions for DJ Pop Balls, please let us know at the Cyberzone Facebook page, facebook.com/Cyberzone Podcast. We will take your questions and he will smoke them. That may produce some sort of answer, like smoke-based answer. I'm not sure, but we'll just have to find out.
What's going on?
I don't know.
Who are you talking to? Who was that?
Oh, it was DJ Pop Balls.
Are you guys having a thing?
He came on as a guest today. I didn't tell you I booked him.
No,
He's doing a world tour.
you forgot to mention that part, Michael.
Oh, I'm sorry. Like I've been under a lot of stress lately.
That's okay. We'll talk about this after the podcast.
Okay. I can't see you, by the way.
No?
No, it's frozen. There you are. Kind of. I can see squares of you.
Weird.
Yeah.
It's like the Cure song "Squares of You."
Yeah, that's like I remember seeing them play that once at the Mall of America.
The Cure.
Yeah.
Where are we going?
Hello, John.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I wish I was wearing my ET shirt as well, but it's another 8-bit character.
Yeah, I actually had to explain the circumstances around this because my dad is in town. I have not seen my dad in a while. He lives far away, and I live here because it's all relative, right? Like technically, I live far away from him, but I choose to think of him as far away, and me as proximal. Is proximal a word? Proximate.
Proximal, we'll say. I like it.
Okay. Yeah. I'm much closer to me than he is, even right now.
That's true. The core of you is right there.
Yeah.
In the closest possible proximity to yourself.
No one will ever be closer.
Unless, like, so what defines like the closest point to you? So if like a demon like thrusts his hand through your chest, like where would his hand have to be inside your body to be the closest to you?
Well, now we're getting into philosophical discussion. Where does the soul reside?
So you're defining closeness as soul and not just physical?
I think so, yeah, because if I like say I died, right, and I haunted your smoke detector, well then I am your smoke detector. That's where I am.
Okay. So you are not the shell of your body, you are the essence of yourself.
Right.
Whatever that happens to be in.
Yeah. That's why if you have an out of body experience and you get lost, then you need to find your body. But you don't, because you're still you. Right. But without your body, you can't like eat or poop or watch Jason Statham films.
You have to take care of it. It's like a car.
It is. Yeah, it's a lot like a car. In car with a wing. It has a hatchback, side airbags.
Yeah. Leather interior.
Yeah. OnStar.
Yeah, you can. If you fall over, it automatically calls the police.
I really like the idea of OnStar for people, though, to just have like a button on your shirt or something that you could press if you need help for something.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, how much should I tip on this bill that I'm eating at this restaurant?
They're just like, 15% sounds good.
Yeah. And like, okay. Maybe they have questions like, was the service good? Did your food come out quickly? Did you enjoy it? Do you feel that your server went above and beyond?
They auto-calculated it all for you.
Yeah. That's the pinnacle of. So I've seen a lot of commercials this week for like Siri and Cortana and Google's thing, which I think is just called Google.
Yeah.
And in the commercials, it's really infuriating to me because they're like people just like lazing about in their apartments, right? Just like lying on the couch going like, hey Siri, like where can I find donuts? You're holding your phone. Is it really easier for you to ask out loud to a shoddy voice recognition program your question?
It's yeah.
I would understand if it was like someone like holding a baby and like spinning a frisbee on one finger, or like someone driving their car.
Yeah. Their glasses are broken.
Yeah, but it's never that. It's just people like it's always people's like lying on a couch in the most uncomfortable, lazy way where like their legs are over the side and they're just like this.
You have the Ernest leg going on where it looked kind of unnatural the way it was popping.
That's funny. I was talking about Ernest with DJ Pop-Up Balls. Did you know he killed him?
Ernest killed DJ Pop-Up Balls?
No, vice versa.
Oh, DJ killed Ernest.
Yeah, it's like they always talk about that on the internet.
Yeah, I remember I read like an article on like, the Huffington Post, but I wasn't sure if it was like real or not.
Oh yeah, the HuffPo. That's a quality site.
Yeah. Yeah. That's weird. I would never have expected that kind of.
Was it scandalous? I mean, like, did he murder him or?
I think the police are still like it's a what do you call it? Not a cold case because they know he did it.
It's work
But
in progress.
they can't pin it on him. They know he did it, but they don't have the evidence or the motive.
So there's a lot to talk about, actually,
There is a lot to talk about.
especially because we've missed a couple weeks. We've been busy. Life has been busy. But well, there's the Nintendo stuff actually currently happening.
Yeah, like right now, right? Is the
The investor meeting is currently going on. They're talking about like their mobile games, the new Nintendo like account system, which is going to be cloud based. Yeah, I'm really interested to see. And their stocks took kind of a dive because they announced that the game was delayed, their first mobile game, and that's always a shame. But you know, these things happen.
with the amount of money they sunk into Pokemon Go, it'll get back up.
Yeah, they've got so much money. It's irrelevant to think that like the small announcement, the small delay is going to do anything because they're going to be doing quite well, I think, for some time. They apparently also said they have some unannounced holiday projects for the Wii U and 3DS that they haven't yet announced, and maybe they'll do it after the investor meeting, or maybe a Nintendo Direct is going to come fairly soon and sort of pop up a couple things.
Which is going to be kind of weird because they did say that there is going to be a Nintendo Direct, I think, next quarter.
Yes, with a new format.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. So, actually, I want to ask you a couple things real quick.
Okay.
And this actually does not pertain to the Nintendo Direct. This is a really quick, weird tangent. But what is the strangest celebrity death that you know of?
Strangest celebrity death.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you mean like mysterious, like, oh my God, what happened? Or like how could a person conceivably perish in that way?
We'll say that. We'll say like you look at it and you go, that killed him. You know, like I remember there was like the hoax a long time ago that Michael Jackson choked on a peanut or whatever and died. And it was like, yeah, it was a hoax. And then when he did die, I was like, oh, that really sucks.
Yeah.
But like something where it's a bad way to go, you know? Like Dennis Hopper was watching TV and suddenly like his stomach ruptured and his guts came out.
You know, I'm trying to think, and I know some like weird ones, but they're not like that. It's always just like, you know, stuff like, did the Chinese mob kill Brandon Lee? Or
yeah, they snuck onto the set of The Crow, which is pertinent right now because did you see my picture?
No.
I posted a picture on Facebook of me back in like 9th grade, 1996, and I was dressed up as the Crow with my very first girlfriend, and she was dressed like normal.
I see it.
Still very gothic. Yeah, it's pretty cool because I had long hair and it was wavy, and I was the Crow, like, you know.
That's fantastic.
Totally the antithesis of John because I'm not brooding and dark and, you know, pale, and it was really, yeah. So it was kind of a fun picture when I was at her house tonight, and we found that, and I decided I had to share with the world because I didn't know that picture still existed, but I'm happy it does.
Yeah.
I think I need to goth out more often.
No, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if anyone out there knows this. Most people who know me know this. I hate Halloween with a vigor that I don't carry for any other day of the year. Like, I hate Halloween more than I like Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving is probably my favorite day of the year.
That's okay. So we may have discussed it at one point. I don't remember. So let's hear it.
It's, you know, it's hard for me to really say why, because I think it's a lot of things that intertwine, like things that are related, sort of like cause and effect, but the effect is a cause of the first cause. Like, it's cyclical. I remember as a kid, like, kids love Halloween, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not this guy. I would get dressed up. My parents would get me a costume, or my brother would help me get a costume or something, and I would just be like miserable and like supremely uncomfortable about being in a costume and going out like dressed in a silly fashion. Even as like a 3 and 4 year old, I was just like, this is not a thing that I should be doing. And so I didn't enjoy it, but the school system and parental pressure, it kind of forces you to do this ritual. Like if you don't like Christmas, too bad, because there's going to be Christmas shit all over your classroom and like your family wants to see you. So I kept up with Halloween really until like the 3rd grade, maybe 4th grade. One of those years for 2nd grade, I went to a Catholic school, so we had to wear uniforms. And I decided that a fun way for me to circumvent the dress code but not participate in Halloween, I got a piece of yellow construction paper and my mom wrote normal person on it. And we tied a string through it and I wore it around my neck and just wore like my casual clothes.
It's funny because I don't really celebrate Halloween either. I don't dislike it, by any means, especially not to this extent. But to find every way possible to avoid this is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Because I don't. It's interesting mostly to hear that you hate it. Like it's not just like, oh, I could take it or leave it.
I hate it. Like when people, and I have to physically like restrain myself because sometimes Facebook is a platform for whoever's Facebook it is, right? You shouldn't filter what you say because you're worried that people on your Facebook will be offended or won't like what you have to say. But I don't like when people are like, well, if you post about this, I don't give a shit and I'm not gonna like, and that's how I feel about Halloween. It's really how I feel about it.
Would you rather people be posting like a bunch of like super heavy-handed political like nonsense?
Yes.
Halloween
stuff. And here's the reason why. Here's the reason why.
Sure.
For whatever, I don't know what caused this, but a lot of the things associated with Halloween make me physically nauseous, particularly face paint.
Candy corn.
No, I like candy corn.
You good? Okay, me too.
Yeah. But like
all the things, that would be like the one.
Face paint, rubber masks, and to a lesser extent, fake blood. Like, even though I know, like, it's weird because people who like get sick at fake blood, it's because they're like, oh my God, that's real blood. And for me, if someone's bleeding out of a cut, like if they get their arm gashed open and they're just bleeding everywhere, I'm like, that person needs medical attention. But if I see like fake blood, it's like, oh. So what I would say is this, is like these things, because we have a mutual friend, we have Jason.
Yeah.
The reason that Jason's profile picture changed a couple years ago, because for a long time he just had a picture of him in like this sort of weird Grim Reaper Halloween mask.
That's right, I remember that.
And we were having a very similar discussion, and he was like, so my profile picture, does it gross you out? And I'm like, yeah, I really am uncomfortable looking at it. And he had it up year round. Like, it wasn't like for Halloween, this is my picture. Like, that was just his Facebook profile picture. And I was like, yeah, when I see it, I get like this pit in my stomach feeling.
Weird.
So I would rather, instead of seeing people's like Halloween pictures, I would rather, and this is another thing that I hate, but like just babies eating messily and like pooping everywhere, I would rather see that than people's Halloween pictures.
Okay, so I have a question for you then.
Okay.
How do you feel about the cosplay community?
Better. I genuinely prefer it to Halloween, but face paint still gets me.
Okay. That's fair. It's interesting to note. And, no judgment, of course, because why. But super interesting because I think there are a lot of people out there who probably have like some sort of trigger that just makes them feel like tremendously at unrest.
Yeah.
And and some might make more sense than others. All of them are valid, but it's interesting to me to think that there are certain triggers. Is it like maybe like the texture of the thought of rubber or the scent of a rubber mask?
It's for the rubber mask. It's really the scent and the inability to breathe.
Yeah, okay. So
I'm really like, I don't have great lungs. I don't have a great respiratory system. So like being able to breathe is really. I don't wear turtlenecks because it's like too much pressure on my big fat neck. With face paint, I actually think I know what it is too, and it's because I'm a sweaty guy, and I hate the thought of the face paint running and getting in my mouth.
Okay. So I was reading this article on the Huffington Post about if you smoke like a lot of things,
Yeah.
that you can actually you can breathe better because you're conditioning your lungs to like adapt.
And that's probably true. The problem is that for whatever reason, when I smoke, my it even sounded like it was happening there for a second. My sinus is shut up here, and so I very much breathe like a fish after I smoke. Because I have to just be like,
Okay. Well,
Another thing that I was going to say about Halloween stuff, face paint getting in my mouth. Oh, so I have a couple like Halloweens that I actually have fond memories of. One was Halloween, I think it was 1995, because Chrono Trigger had just come out,
mm,
and so I just rented Chrono Trigger and stayed in my house. It hadn't just come out; it came out in March, I guess.
it was
But
earlier that year, but you
it
know,
was my first time playing it was Halloween. I went out and rented it and just played Chrono Trigger, and I was like, "This is amazing." And so there's that, and then the only other thing that I do celebrate. This is weird. The weird thing is I do have a Halloween ritual. I do celebrate Halloween, and what I do is I watch the Halloween episode of Pete and Pete.
that's fair.
A, because it's a really good episode, and B, because it fits with my outlook on Halloween. Because if you're not familiar, you may be, the audience, whoever, if you're not familiar with the Halloween episode of Pete and Pete, it's all about how little Pete wants to set the record for the most candy received on a night trick-or-treating. And Big Pete is so teenage that he's like, Halloween is for babies. It's stupid. I wish there were no more Halloweens. But Little Pete needs Big Pete to help him break the record. So it's this whole like, well, if I go out and anyone from my high school class finds out, like my social life is dead. And like at one point he's like smashing a jack-o'-lantern to like signify the death of Halloween. So I like really relate to that side of it, where it's like this is the time of year is appropriate, but the sentiment is something that I can actually get behind.
Interesting. It's so interesting to know.
Yeah. What holiday do you dislike? Do you have is there like something that you're just like, oh, I don't want to do this ritual that we've set up as a society?
So it's interesting. There's not one that like really like stands out to me as being like loathsome. I have interesting memories of Christmas, and it's actually nothing bad, but I remember being very impatient during Christmas, and not just to open presents, but because like it was such a long night of feeling obligated to do tons of things, whether it was whoa, knock my computer down. Lighting, candles and doing the advent calendar, and going and looking at luminarias and going and checking out the Christmas lights. And it felt so packed with things that you do, not necessarily because you want to, but because they're there and you miss the opportunity, that like as a kid, that's my association with a lot of these things. Because I like going out looking at Christmas lights, if it's of my own volition. But when I'm forced to with my parents as a child, I never liked it. So if I'm ever doing stuff with my family for Christmas, and they opt to go do those things, it's not that I dislike them, but I don't want to because I don't want to be made to do so.
Right.
That's kind of like the closest it comes, but there's like a weird sort of like frustrated anxiety that builds up when it's like, hey, let's go drive around and look at luminaries. It's like, and I do it for my family because it's I like spending time with them, and that's fine. But I just think there are more fun ways to spend the evening with the family, which is sitting around drinking cocoa and talking.
Yeah, that's a big thing for me too. Is like I'm not a super family oriented guy, and I don't like saying that because it's not something that you can kind of like. It's not a point of pride. I think you're like, who doesn't like their family, but like extended family and things like that, it's just not something that I was super involved in. I didn't want to be, but my parents, my mom was. So things like Christmas, we would do the things with the immediate family, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna go to grandma's house and eat ice cream or whatever. And I was just like, I don't think I'm gonna go. Like, I'm not gonna go. I'm not interested.
Mhm.
So I kind of get that. It's a lot of holidays, especially for kids.
Yeah.
There's so much pageantry involved.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
We have a question from the audience.
Yes.
From
Yes,
Nico.
Nico.
He says,
Nico.
guys, great to see you again. So Halloween talk. Well, just to break the ice, what's one of your favorite Halloween-themed levels or game?
Spooky game. So will this count as spooky game, or do we want to say Halloween?
I think the question is Halloween-themed.
Okay, cool. I actually already have an answer.
I think I do too.
And it's the Shademan level from Mega Man 7.
It's a good level.
And the reason I choose that is because, while Mega Man 7 is definitely pretty far down on my list of favorite Mega Mans, I think it's a very well-designed stage visually. The Easter egg to play Ghosts and Goblins music is fantastic. And it really has, there's pumpkins and, like...
Yeah, you
candles
could
and
say, oh, it's just like a spooky stage, but no, there's like jack-o'-lanterns and...
Yeah, exactly. So I think they really emphasize a fun, this is clearly a Halloween-themed spooky stage. Yeah.
For me, it's a whole game. Monster Bash for the PC, which
Super
is
Jack Brothers.
Yeah, I wish.
Super Monster Bash.
Monster Bash, just Monster Bash.
Thing.
It was a Apogee, now 3D Realms platformer where you played this kid in pajamas with a slingshot, and I forget what the premise was, but it starts off like his name was Johnny Dash. It was Monster Bash starring Johnny Dash.
Ooh.
And he's got like this white like footy pajamas with blue polka dots and a slingshot and a red backwards hat and like messy blonde hair. And you look at it and you think like, okay, this is gonna be like a Dennis the Menace game. Like it's not gonna be like it's gonna be like spooky, but not really. But this game is covered in blood and spikes and bones. It's honestly kind of like you start playing like this isn't like when there's like floating skulls. If you touch them, they kill you. If you shoot them, their eyes bulge out and explode into like chunks and they just disappear. Like it's really weird how that game presents itself so childishly, and then you start playing it and you're like, oh god, no, this is actually kind of dark.
Way more heavy duty. Okay. I wasn't expecting that. I was thinking more like Jazz Jackrabbit, kind of.
Yeah, it plays similarly and it looks similar, but yeah, it just takes this right turn and just decides it's going to crank that sort of macabre decor.
Yeah, then they can in mid 90s, I'm assuming.
Yeah, probably early 90s, maybe like 91,
Early
92.
And you could get away with that kind of stuff because it was presented in such a way that wasn't like proactive blood. It was an element of the game.
Like Monster Party.
Monster Party, right, exactly, which has weird, spooky, gory, gross elements, but it was never talked about because like it didn't have that mainstream kind of like, what are the kids playing? Oh, they're playing Doom. What's Doom? It has monsters and blood. Oh my god, get it away. It just was one of those releases that existed, and if you knew about it, it's like, I hope mom doesn't catch me playing this because
right.
Yeah.
That thing that's interesting that like back then, like video games were so far from the mainstream that you could get away with having a controversial game as long as it didn't sell very well.
Narc.
Yeah.
We've discussed Narc several times in the show, but you literally destroy people. You don't just gun them down. You actually blow their guts to smithereens with a missile, and it shoots body parts all over the screen. People are supposed to be arresting because they're selling coke or whatever, and instead of very pertinent to today's, methods apparently, but you blow them up.
Yep.
You can arrest them.
You get power-ups for arresting them, I think.
Yeah, it's actually more beneficial, or you can just, take the easy way out and just explode their pieces all over the world.
Yeah.
And you shoot dogs and they just turn into smaller dogs and run away. Kind of weird. Also, I had one more quick interjection for you. If you could kill any Pokemon, just straight up, you could choose any, say you wanted to kill a Geodude. You could go out in the wild, catch a Geodude, and then just take it back home and just break its arms off because it's rock, and then just like roll it into like the ditch into some water.
Yeah. Geodude's a good answer because I was thinking like a Metapod, like something to just be like, that's how strong I am. Is I can just like take a Metapod and just like.
But look, what do you think the Metapod would use harden and stop you from doing that?
I think it would try.
Okay,
but
but
I've been lifting weights.
persevere and just
So,
crush it.
yeah.
You need to crush a bug. You wouldn't want to like grab a Moltres and like step on its neck and squirt of the hose all over it.
That would be pretty cool too. But I think like for me, it would be about like having displaying. It would honestly because I can't think of a good reason to kill a Pokemon other than for its meat. And that's a whole other conversation.
Geodude meat.
Yeah.
That's what the rock guy from Neverending Story would eat. It's just Geodude.
Yeah. So for me, it's all about like that sort of hunter's dominance to display
Right.
like this is what I could kill. And yeah, like a legendary bird god is tempting, but like the idea of like this thing is just a rock with a face on it, but I killed it.
It's almost like if a Yakuza was like, "Did you kill the mob boss?" He's like, "No, I just took down like a preschooler because I just snapped it in half." And everybody's like, "Jesus."
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. Everybody expects you to go after like the big guy.
Yeah, I just want like a Metapod is just a bug. Like killing a bug is very easy. But this is a bug renowned for its toughness. It's really the only thing it has going for it.
That's true. Yeah, it literally can only do one thing, and that's turn harder.
And I can kill it.
You get to kill it.
Yeah. What about you?
I would like to say, okay, so there's like the weird like snow cone or like no vanilla ice. It's an
Yeah.
ice cream Pokemon, and I don't like want to kill it per se, but I want to eat it, and I assume that would kill it.
Which goes back to the whole meat thing.
Yeah, yeah, because I don't know if I want to kill a Pokemon for dominance. So am I doing one because like I'm getting joy out of it? I guess there's going to be two different reasons, like you've said. If I want to kill a Pokemon to prove a point, I would kill a Mr. Mime. I know it's a very easy answer, but I also think like it would be really.
It's basically like killing a person. You're like saying this thing isn't a person, but it's
Right.
this close.
Yeah,
Like if I can kill Mr. Mime, I can kill you.
right. It's a psychic, thing. Like, for all intents, we were discussing this in the story the other day. Do you think that Mr. Mime was like something along the lines of like a La Llorona situation where like some little kid just went and like wandered into like a psychic patch of grass and got like stabbed to death psychically by like all these abracadabras and alakazams, and like this kid just died out in like the wilderness, and it came back as like this big little freak, and so it's like a life lesson that don't go play in the ditch, don't go wandering out into the woods or whatever. Otherwise, like you're gonna end up like this little boy who haunts the world forever as like a Pokemon now.
So what you're saying is that La Llorona and Swamp Thing have the same origin?
Yeah, I mean it's just like different regions.
Okay.
Yeah, because Swamp Thing's from Louisiana, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
Well, I think Swamp Thing is Louisiana.
Yeah, so that's the only place that Swamp Thing could come from. I think Swamp Thing and La Llorona would get along well. They would get married. I think his be as long and green and sludgy.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of the Toxic Crusader.
I always get Swamp Thing and Savage Dragon mixed up.
I think Toxie would also get along with La Llorona though, because like he's immune to her wiles.
And he gets along with everybody.
Dude. Toxic Crusader. He's gross, but he still gets girls.
Yeah.
The song even like says it.
Why can't
My
you,
friend-
nerd kid
why-
watching the cartoon? Not you personally, no.
Oh yeah, just John. Yeah, calling me out. Yo, why can't you get girls, you little punk? No? Combing your hair, putting on your stupid polo shirt to go to 3rd grade? Idiot. My friend Kat said that we were both monsters for choosing the Pokemon that we chose.
Well, look, if it was about eating, like I said, because that really changes the conversation. If it was about Pokemon meat, you might as well say gotta eat them all, because I'm gonna try every single one.
Would you even eat like a Voltorb?
Yeah, just cut me off a grilled Voltorb steak. I want a fillet of Mew.
That would be rare.
It would. You know how much you'd have to pay for something like that?
I know, yeah. The one Mew in the whole world.
And see, I think a lot of people would pick like boring, like, oh, I'd have a Miltank burger. Like, pfft, you know what that's gonna taste like.
Oh yeah, those are they're standard fare. That's just like, I mean, they just that's you go to any burger shop and they're serving Miltank and Taros burgers, like
Yeah.
that's nothing. Yeah. Yeah, I want to eat like Groudon Dick soup.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a Growlithe ball.
What's the panda one? The thug panda.
Oh, Pangoro.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like cut off his testicles and like marinate them in Miltank milk.
Lapras milk.
Lapras milk. Oh, weird. Lapras.
Well,
They have spice.
all Pokemon
What?
come from eggs, though, right?
Except for the legendaries.
So only the legendaries could potentially be mammals.
Mewtwo actually has. Well, Mewtwo was created. He was a clone. But like Entei, you can't hatch an Entei, so like he would have to have some sort of like fiery milk, spicy milk.
Yeah.
Would you drink spiced milk? You wouldn't drink milk at all.
No, well, if I could, I would try spicy milk. Yeah,
You would
because-
drink some.
because spice is all the idea of spice. It comes from like what capsaicin and like other hot acids, right?
Yeah,
So
or
if
do.
you have milk with that in it.
Yeah.
It's just like drinking water. It balances out.
Okay, yeah. Basically, yeah, just it's neutral.
Yeah.
Nico asked one more question. To keep the theme going, theme before getting off to another topic, what now are your favorite scary games to play?
I don't play a lot of scary games, but I get scared by weird games too. Like there are a couple games out there that aren't scary, but that like I think about them and I'm like, I don't want to play that. It's scary.
Like what?
The Magic of Scheherazade.
Okay,
I had
Sort
a
of like-
nightmare about that game once,
interesting.
and like the game itself was already like a little kind of strange.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a nightmare about it once when I was a kid, and so when I think about it in the terms coming out of that nightmare. Like it's
Okay.
forever painted the way I view that game. I also like the Silent Hill games, but I don't scare easily.
Yeah.
Well, I scare easily in real world terms, but like movies don't scare me, TV shows don't scare me. Games have an easier time of scaring me, but it's rare. I think the last time I was scared playing a game was Amnesia, the first Amnesia, and I had made it like hours and hours into the game without getting scared, and then at one point, like whoever it is coming, I don't even remember his name, but he's coming to get me, and I see him far off. And so I hide because like that's an element of the game is like to just not look, and then he'll go away. Like if you look at him, he'll keep coming at you. So I stopped looking, and then I waited like 15 seconds, and I looked again. He was just like right in front of me when I turned the corner, and I was like, nope, done. I have to stop.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that was, yeah. I like Sweet Home. I think that's a cool game. I like the Resident Evil series, though I don't necessarily classify them as scary anymore.
Right. The first one was scary because a zombie pops out of the window. No, the dog jumps to the window at the beginning of the game and surprises you.
Yeah.
After
Because-
that, like, yeah.
Clock Towers are pretty good. Haunting Ground on the PS2 is a lot of fun. I wish that game wasn't as expensive as it is.
Yeah.
But what about you?
See, I haven't really been scared by a game in a while, but the last two that did give me like a good bit of tension were Zombie U, which I liked a surprising amount. I was actually really pleased with that game, and PT, because PT did stuff to like make the atmosphere, because not exactly a scary game, but they nail a sense of like uncertainty and offset timing that I think is what really did it for me. Because a lot of games feel very predictable when it comes to, we're going to display this and then suddenly, oh, it's not there, but oh, it's back again. And a lot of games get sort of easy to formulate. But PT had a couple times where like there were things that were happening and they didn't necessarily even like do things to affect you. They were just present, and if you noticed them, they were unsettling.
Yeah.
So I felt very, at a state of unease when
Well,
playing
it's a
PT.
good thing Kojima still works at Konami, so we can still get that game.
Yeah, I'm really excited to play it when it finally gets released under his and Guillermo del Toro's name. That's gonna be really nice. Because people want that, right? So
Yeah.
that'll be cool that it'll get released for the public to play.
They're gonna PT Pachi slot.
I'm upset because like 10 years ago we would joke about the next Silent Hill is going to be a pachinko machine,
And now it
then-
is.
and then instead like that's all it is. Yeah, that's very frustrating. Yeah, I think the last game that like really actually did scare me before, like, because I mean Zombie U didn't really scare me, but it makes me feel tense, and I like that. And PT did definitely have a couple moments that made me feel very like unnerved. But I think it was like Silent Hill 4. And there was a couple enemies and characters and like some sort of like scenario situations that played out that I really enjoyed because they were presented well, but the formula of that game started getting really predictable and stale, and eventually I just stopped feeling the tension because I thought, well, I know exactly what's happening and what I'm doing, and if I just do this parameter, then the monster's not going to do anything to me. And once I sort of like it, the system just sort of opened up, and once it did, I stopped caring, and I felt really bad because it just stopped.
Yeah. Well, this plays into something that I think about because people tend to like I'll tell them this and they'll give me this look like, oh no, why would you even say that? That's so wrong. But then they think about it and they're like, I hate that you're right about this, or like there's got to be an exception. And that is like people say like, oh, Resident Evil is not scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Resident Evil was scary, and it's not that because the graphics were worse. You'd think when the graphics get better, it would be scarier, but the controls got better. And I genuinely think that for a game to be truly scary, I wish this wasn't the case, but I think it's got to have bad controls.
And I do agree with that.
Because it takes the power away from you as the player that you have to, like, you can't react to something like that. If a zombie dog jumps through a window, okay, well, I have to rotate very slowly in this direction and then hold this button to walk and then hold this button to run. Like, all of the things that people hate these days about the original Resident Evil are what make it so iconic. The fact that you could only carry 6 or 8 items, the fact that you had limited saves, the fact that the controls were what they were, all of these things, even like the load door screens added an element of tension to it.
The camera having a limited field of view.
Yeah, and the fact that it could change on you while you're running and suddenly your controls might mess up.
Yeah, no, I think
it play into what made that game scary and why Resident Evil 4, well, 4 has its moments, but 5 and 6 aren't.
Yeah, you have too much control, you have too much power, it's easy to play, you can aim at whatever you want, you're far more mobile. It gives you the options, which, if present in the original Resident Evil, just would have been an action game.
Yeah. And that's not to say that those games aren't fun, because they are. Resident Evil 5 and especially 5 for me. I know you prefer 6, but they're fun games. They're fun to play.
I love 5. I got 1,000 out of 1,000 because I couldn't put it down. But yeah, I do agree with that. It's the fact that like you're wrestling with your character, and it's kind of like the idea of I'm not really scared if I'm walking around like a department store, because if something were to happen, I have a lot of options. But if I'm in the middle of the ocean and something happens, I'm infinitely more terrified because I am far more limited in any of my mobility and movement than ever before. I'm at the whim of whatever is, naturally involved against me.
Right. Or think about, like, let's take Simon Belmont, for example, okay? He can walk. I wish he could run, but he can walk. He can jump, and he can throw his whip or his sub-weapon. So if these are the things that you can do under ideal conditions, because you or I, we can probably run a fair distance. You're probably a better climber than I am, but like there are certain things that you can do under sort of test conditions. You could say, I can run this far, I can jump this high, I can climb this size wall. But if something's chasing you and you're in that panic mode, you may have the adrenaline to do some crazy things, but you're also not going to be thinking straight enough. Like you'll be running too fast and you'll stumble. And these are the things that sort of like, if you have Chris Redfield, and Chris Redfield can suplex a zombie, and he suplexes the first zombie, and that expectation now is he can suplex all zombies. So why should I ever be afraid of a zombie? If I can just hit this button, he will suplex it.
Right.
But if it comes down to your ability to execute, like if you had to do like a Street Fighter combo to do the suplex, then suddenly there's that element of tension where it's like, I hope I don't mess up this one frame link or else these zombies are going to eat me.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's actually something that would lend itself really well to a modern action scary game. Is the fact that like even if something happens, you still need to have precise control of yourself in a certain situation. I like the idea of you have to a series of button inputs or something within a specific time frame that does not allow much leniency. It's not like a quick time event where you have 5 seconds. Something that's much tighter, something that's much more, you'll get hurt if you don't do this, so you better do it right the first try or that's it. I think that it's true. It's true. Depending on your parameters, gameplay-wise, I think that dictates a lot of the tension as well too. The first moment I ever remember being scared in a video game was playing Shadowgate on the NES, and it's because I walked into a room with a skeleton on a lake, like a frozen lake or something like that, holding a key. And like it's playing this music that's kind of cryptic. Like the music itself wasn't scary in another room, but in the same room, it's kind of unnerving because there's this thing looking at me. And I did a description of the skeleton, look at skeleton, and it says he looks at you with soulless, dark, eyeless sockets or something kind of unnerving. And I remember thinking, oh, that makes me feel weird. But the nature of that game is you could do something and have no idea what the result is going to be. So you could walk to the next room and suddenly the skeleton could just be there.
Yeah.
You can fall into a pit where there's a dragon, and if you don't pick up the right thing right off the bat, the dragon kills you instantly. So for all I knew, this skeleton was going to come after me, and my options are trying to move a cursor over to a map to try to go to another door. I didn't know. I had no idea. And so I think there was also some sort of limitation in understanding what I'm able to do with my character that also made that situation very tense. I like that because it was unique, and it was something that I hadn't experienced in a game before.
Right. I think that is something that can make a game scary is when it sets up a rule set for you and then deliberately breaks it for itself to get you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like that's why, for example, the zombie dog in Resident Evil 1, going back to that, the fact that it breaks through the window is a jump scare.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to roll your eyes at and be like, you got scared by that? What are you, PewDiePie?
Mm-hmm.
But with these pre-rendered backgrounds that you're used to with the PlayStation in 1995, 1996, they're not interactive. So you just okay, it's window dressing. It's just the picture of the room that I'm in. I'm in this room. There's nothing in this room to hurt me. But then the window breaks and an enemy comes through and you're thinking well, that wasn't supposed to happen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think it's very cool to sort of set your expectations and then defy them when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how you scare somebody. Nico says, so true with Resident Evil. I feel Resident Evil Revelations did a good job bringing tension back. Though I feel with a game like that, playing on the hardest difficulty makes it scary due to being completely overwhelmed. Would you agree that makes it scary too?
I would say in the way that a roller coaster is scary, not in I don't think I'm going to be able to sleep. You don't ride a roller coaster and then be like, well, I'm going to have nightmares about that tonight. No, it's just a thrill of the moment scare.
Right. Yeah, not I'm falling asleep and I'm having these dreams of devils in my head or whatever. Yeah, yeah. I can agree. I think increasing tension, because I like games that have high tension, that do it well. Resident Evil 4, one of my favorite things about the way that game did scare me wasn't, they had, 15 to 20 villagers on screen at once coming after you, and they're throwing stuff and they're yelling stuff in a foreign language, and that's exciting and it is scary. But what's exciting to me is that they were more mobile than zombies, and because of the way the camera was set up, it was tough to tell if someone was behind you unless you did a quick flip, and something could be right at your back and you would have no idea. And that was exciting because suddenly it's my inclination is to run forward into another group of people to try to get away from this thing that's immediately behind me.
Yeah.
And then as you're running through hallways, you don't know if something's coming out of a window behind you or what's around the corner, and it creates this kind of I'm panicking moment, and you're being closed in on. And I really like that kind of tension.
Yeah. I would say as a general, like for horror games to increase the difficulty, it does make them more fun.
Mhm.
But I don't think like even in general, I don't get scared about it. Like if a game is
Mhm.
hard, it's generally I don't. It's not that I feel scared. It's like the feeling that I get when I burn something while I'm cooking,
Just
where it's just like
excited,
I have to do that all over again.
frustrating.
All I want to do is eat a taco, but I keep
Mm.
charring them.
I had tacos tonight and they were good.
I had enchiladas.
Really good.
That was good. It was a little disappointing though because we go to this restaurant and they have amazing carnitas. The
Okay.
carnitas are so good, but they're so good that every time I go there, they're out.
Oh,
So I always have to order something else.
first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
That's too bad. I love food.
It's really good. I'm eating a lot of good food this weekend because again, my dad's in town.
Oh yeah.
Which is something that I kind of want to talk about.
Your
Hopefully
dad?
watching. Yeah, my dad. Well, dads or
That's in general.
etc. I'm in my living room right now. This is why my computer's been set up for a while. My
Right.
allergies are kicking in for some reason. And this is also where I tend to display my games. I keep at least the games themselves. A lot of the consoles I keep in my room and I'll bring them out when they need to be used. But I like people to be able to see the games and be like, oh, I would like to try this game. And I'm like, okay, well, let me tell you about it. I'll go ahead and start playing it. My dad doesn't really like video games. Certainly not as much as I do, but he just doesn't really like them. And so when he was coming into town, I started taking all I made a deliberate thing in my head, like I'm going to move my games while he's here. I don't want my dad to know how many video games I, a 30-year-old man, own.
Mhm.
And I still have that whole bookshelf back there is all full of games, and I've got some PS1 stuff back there and some original Xbox stuff over here. But I counted. I moved about 750 games, and I hid them in my bathroom.
Easter.
Because I just didn't want to have the conversation that I knew exactly how it was going to play out. And I even told Erin, yeah. She was like, why are you moving this stuff? And I was like, look, I want my dad to know like who I am and respect my choices, but I also don't want to have that conversation. And for me to just leave that bookshelf up, he's going to see that and say, you have too many damn video games. And so he came in and that's almost verbatim what he said when he saw the bookshelf. And I was just like, I was vindicated in my choice. But so like, I think that's a difficult thing. I think that there are probably some people out there who don't play video games or maybe play video games more than they would have normally if it hadn't been made taboo for them.
Sure.
And so I kind of wanted to touch on that. Did you ever have any experiences like that?
You know, I'm trying to think if I had like friends who did, or like if I had friends' parents who like may have thought of me in that way.
Yeah, that actually is that's a family story. Like I mentioned not wanting to go to my grandma's house on Christmas. And the reason for that actually is that I had a falling out with my mom's side of the family because my cousins had a Nintendo and it drove me nuts. They had a Nintendo and a Super Nintendo and they had way better games than I did. They had like Final Fantasy 2 and 3. They had Crystalis. They had all the games that I wanted to have, they had. I had a lot of great games too, but all the ones I really wanted, they had them. And they were not allowed to play video games on weekdays. They were only allowed to play their games Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
They had better games, but could only play them on the weekends.
Yeah. And my mom didn't care. I think she cared, but she had too much stuff going on. So I just played games whenever I wanted. And so, like, my uncle thought poorly of me because of that. He thought I played too many video games. And so, like, there was this sort of, like, shaming thing that came. It's a long story. We don't need to get into family drama and stuff. But so, like, yeah, there are people that I know that, like, you're not allowed to play. Like, you can only play an hour a day, or you can only have this. I had some friends. They were a Sega household because their dad refused to buy Japanese products.
Most likely. But, okay, as a name, too Japanese for him.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like those kinds of restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't really I didn't really grow up under those personally because I didn't live with my dad. So I just played games all the time. Like, he didn't necessarily approve of it, and at times we would play games together as kind of like a bonding thing, but it wasn't ever really an issue for me. But I know for some people it has been.
You have too many damn games. When you said that, the first thing I actually thought of was that your dad is like Gaston. And he just doesn't get it. He holds a 64 game, and just, what? I don't understand this, right? Just
that's kind of my dad. The only time that we ever had like a really lucid conversation about it is I think he was like learning about games so that we would have something like common to talk about. And so we went to like an Applebee's or something. I was visiting him for the weekend, and he was like, "So, what do you think is the one to get this year? Do you think Knights is good, or is Crash Bandicoot going to be better than Mario 64?" And I was just like, "What's happening?" Aside from that, and like me bringing Time Crisis 1 over to his house so that he could use the gun con, like those are really our only gaming experiences together.
Okay. That's interesting. Because it also seems like he wants to make an effort to try to maybe understand. But at the same time, he's already decided that he doesn't like them.
Right. Which is admirable for him. Like when you look at it that way, you're like, man, that's a good dad.
Mm-hmm.
It just sucks that it's not 100% follow through.
Right. That's fair. So what would he say if he found out? Well, he might just say the same thing but louder. If he saw all your video games. Yeah,
basically. He was like, that's what he told me. He said, he didn't say you. I was thinking he was going to say you have too many damn video games. Instead, he looked at my bookshelf and he said, "Whose are these?" And I said, "They're mine." And he said, "You should sell some of them."
So, have you ever sat down with your dad and like asked him why it is that he thinks that they're not beneficial? Like, what is his reasoning? Does he just a waste of time?
He's an outdoorsy guy. He likes books. Like for a while, he harassed my brother about like not liking sports when he was a kid. Like he's just sort of like that kind of dad.
I see.
But I think he also got me like Super Mario 3D Land for my birthday a couple of years ago. So it goes in waves. He's just, some days he's really mad about video games, and some days he just doesn't care.
Dads.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Tell me about
it. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a situation. I think I had because my parents allowed it. They weren't against games at all, because I think ultimately they saw it as a good harmless thing, and they actually saw it as a phase. They thought I'd grow out of it. And they instead opened up the Pandora's box to everything that's happened to this point. So but I had a friend, like, because before I even had video games, I didn't have a Nintendo when they first came out. My brother and sister had an Atari, but I rarely played it. I really only played video games at friends' houses. And there was a kid in my class back in essentially kindergarten and pre-first is essentially was what it was. And his name was Jason. And like they lived in like the rich part of town, and had all kinds of video games, and like his dad had built him like a little arcade machine that had the Nintendo on the inside, and it had like the arcade joystick, so you could just put a Nintendo game in there and play like an arcade game. And they had like the big screen TV, and he had the Nintendo and the Genesis and like all these things. And his dad was actually the one who really pushed for all this stuff, and his dad was really into it as well too. And I thought that was interesting, because my parents, they didn't care, they weren't against it, but they just
it wasn't on their radar.
Right, exactly. And so I remember we were driving one day, and to my knowledge, I had kept up on video games as limitedly as I could. Maybe one issue of Nintendo Power existed, maybe not at that point. I don't even know if Nintendo Power. It might not have. Maybe it did. I don't remember. Anyway, so we were driving someplace. Like his dad was, we were going from Chuck E. Cheese or something, and my friend Jason was like, "Hey, we have Zelda 2." And I was like, "I've never heard of Zelda 2. You can't have that, because I haven't heard of it, like." And I've played Zelda 1, but nobody's ever said Zelda 2. I've never heard that in my ears ever. I've never, And he said, "Yeah, do you want to try it?" And I was like, I don't believe you, but sure. Because I didn't. I straight up was like, I know Super Mario Brothers, I know Metroid, I know Russian Attack, I know, Legend of Zelda. I've heard of these games. I know Punch Out, Excite Bike, like the staples early on. But at this one point, and I don't remember exactly when this was, but they had it. And I'm trying to remember now, and I got to actually look it up, because for all I know, his dad maybe had worked with a company, or like they were affiliated with somebody where they got it early, because it seems like it was a lot earlier to have this game than it should have been. So I'm actually going to have to do some research on this here in a second. But he was actually one of the first people that I remember, like, that they as a family embraced gaming as a whole. Everybody liked it, like the mom, she was into it, but like she was fine with it. But the dad and the son loved it. Like it was their thing. And their dad really emphasized and pushed it. And I don't think I had too many experiences. The closest thing I had was my friend's dad had got like a new computer, and they had like some really crappy virtual racing style computer game where you're racing a formula racer with polygons at 15 frames a second in some oval track.
Yeah.
Right. I remember thinking that was just like mind blowing, because it was 3D, and all I had was the NES. And I remember his dad got really mad at me because you're driving this car down the road, and like there's a referee on the side standing there made from like 20 triangles, looks terrible. And he's holding like a flag that says 1 on it for your lap. And I remember he was driving by the guy, and I said, "Can you run over him?" And my friend's dad turned around and goes, "Jesus Christ, John, no." And he got so mad at me because, like, he thought that I was serial training. But
well, I've talked about this too, like how my mom, we always had like really adult, like equitable conversations about violence in video games. When I was 9, like my stepdad played a lot of computer games, and we got Doom, and I would watch my brother and my stepdad play it, but I wasn't allowed because I was 9. So I'd seen most of the game, but I wanted to play it. I wanted to know what it felt like to play Doom. And so I asked my mom, like, "Hey, let's talk about Doom. Like, I understand that it's not real, that you should never like point a gun at someone, that all these things it's just a game." And so my mom was like, "Okay, since you understand that, you can play this game." But the first game my mom, I remember being upset about the level of violence in it, was Cobra Triangle.
You might shoot a sea dragon.
Those levels where you're in the ring, and there's the 8 people floating around you, and she was like, "You shouldn't shoot things so close to those people." And I was like, "Well, I'm trying to protect them," and she was just like, we played Contra. We had Golgo 13 at this point.
Oh wow, okay.
That was one of the first games we bought for our NES, and so like for her to get bent out of shape about that was always really funny to me.
So because I grew up in a really religious household, my mom, like we had to talk about Mortal Kombat, and we had to talk about Doom, and even Final Fantasy was a point of contention because they used to listen to a lot of like Christian radio, and so there was like a whole big thing about like, "John, in these games they cast magic spells, and magic spells are from the devil," and like it became like, because Focus on the Family or whatever talked about the evils of if you play Dungeons and Dragons, your kids are dabbling in the occult, and they're going to cut their wrists and try to like resurrect their friends or whatever like nonsense is going. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But so like Final Fantasy was one of those kind of like, I don't know, John. And I think I had to rent it and show them that like it wasn't like that, but they thought, well, there's magic in it, and magic is magic is not approved in the Bible. That's for witches and Satan. And so eventually I was able to do those, and my parents like kind of, I think things really happening. But one day, I probably told you this, but I think there's a couple people that are watching and hadn't heard this story. I was playing Final Fantasy VI, and I named my character stupid stuff. I was like in probably 7th grade, and I had named my character like Lesbo and Gay Fag and like Dix or whatever, because just name your character stupid stuff. And I was being really careful to like not, if my mom was in the room, I wouldn't use those party members.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I was in Kefka's tower, and so like if my mom was coming down, I was like, okay, switch parties and go, use these guys because, it's butt and farts and dumb and condom, right? Like that's my party. And so she came down and she saw a condom, and a condom, like she got mad, and it was because having sex outside of marriage, and for the creation of not for the purpose of not creating a baby, that's what condoms are for, and sin, right? I got like a big earful of don't do that because condoms are evil.
Yeah.
And that was my experience with video game resistance and content, even though it had nothing to do with them. They happened to be there.
Even after the whole Doom thing, I remember I was renting games one weekend with my mom, and I was like, I want to rent Maximum Carnage. And she was like, absolutely not. And I was like, what? Why? It's Spider-Man. Like, I don't get, like, you've never done this before. And she's like, do you know what Carnage means? And I was like, yes. And it's not about that. It's about a character named Carnage.
My parents didn't want me playing Rampage.
Yeah. I think we talked about that when I was up there.
Oh, yes, we did.
Yeah.
Or watch The Simpsons.
Yeah, I was not allowed to watch The Simpsons for a long. I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons until Beavis and Butthead came out, and I was like, yeah, like okay, The Simpsons is fine.
I couldn't watch Pee-wee's Playhouse, and not because like it had like dicks or crude jokes, but it was because he was so wild that my parents didn't want me like acting like I was just consuming 40 pounds of sugar a minute, because they thought watching Pee-wee would make me go crazy.
Well, full circle, my dad used to watch Pee-wee's Playhouse, and I think the family belief is that he was just getting stoned on Saturday mornings.
Just watching
and that Pee-wee's Playhouse was the most entertaining show on TV for him in that state.
That's fair. That's actually a pretty fair assessment. I smoked pot, that's probably my go time.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay. Oh God. I'm gonna do a quick update real quick and see what kind of stuff Nintendo's been announcing. What else has actually been talked about?
I was excited to see there's a Mario Maker patch coming out.
Yes, that's huge, actually.
It doesn't look like it's going to add too much to the core gameplay, aside from checkpoints and situational question blocks. But being able to navigate the levels better is important, I think.
Yeah, because you can do 2 checkpoints per level, is what I found out.
Okay.
And I think that's fascinating. I'm not sure if it's like 1 per map, regular world and subworld, or if it's just anywhere, which I think is actually more than enough. I think even 1 would be very acceptable.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited for that. I think it's really gonna streamline a lot of level frustration, because I like making difficult levels, but at the same time, it's so discouraging at times for people to want to play through them that I understand why people don't. And then the power-up hierarchy is going to be good. But I think what this is probably doing is saying, hey, let's release a couple things right now to make the old game better for a longer period of time, and then hey, in 6 months or 3 months or something, you're going to get a huge update with all these extra features. But in the meantime, you can increase creation of a level way more efficiently, I think, with just the checkpoint system alone. I think that's going to really help a lot of people's levels.
While we were doing the stream, Nintendo has announced what their first smartphone game is going to be.
Yes.
Miitomo.
Miitomodachi, which is the Japanese word for friend.
Yep.
And it's going to be very good, because I think Nintendo said it's more of like a social media kind of thing.
It's going to be like a messenger app almost, with a sort of virtual component, which I think is really it's not gonna do gangbusters, and people are gonna see it and be like, oh, only this many people are playing Miitomo. Like, Nintendo shouldn't have got into mobile. They don't know what they're doing. But what it's going to show people is what to expect, sort of like feeling wise, from playing a mobile Nintendo game. It's not it's not Zelda.
No,
it's not going to be Zelda. It's a different
Nintendo's take on the mobile market.
Yeah,
it's going to feel unmistakably Nintendo, but it's still going to be a mobile application, not an adventure, not a full-on 3D platformer. What I like about it though is because I think as an entry level title, like what this is going to do is this is really going to set up Nintendo's online plan, because they also have announced the essence of what they're doing with their Nintendo account system to fund everything altogether. The Nintendo account is going to keep track of the points from games that you buy. It's going to keep track of it has cloud saves now, and the cloud saves are going to be functional. It says between the console and handheld market, which means ideally if you download, Castlevania 3 on both versions, you have your save in the cloud and you're good to go. However, save state. According to their new account system, apparently, so smart devices, PCs, and these Nintendo systems, NX, I'm assuming is where this is really going to sort of, begin, are going to now be completely unified under this new system. And the connection capability that they've showed has the email address as one means, the Nintendo Network ID as another, Facebook, Twitter, and Gmail, all as like sort of parental inserts into this account system. And why I think this is going to be good is because it's going to establish, hey, do you already have a Mii on your 3DS? Well, how about you bring that Mii over to your phone for this Miitomo, because that's going to represent you. And that's going to represent you not just on your 3DS and not just on your Wii U and not just on your NX, but on your Facebook and your Gmail. And there's going to be like such a huge spread of where these things are now interconnected that this is a great entry level to say we're preparing you for all of this with this character.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually a very smart move is to say that this is your Street Pass Plaza setup for what we have coming down the road, not just on phones. And, it's going to be basic, it's going to be simple, but I think it's going to be a very involved thing ultimately.
On the other side of things, another thing that was announced, I think last week, Sony said that they have no first-party Vita games in development right now.
Yes, I saw that, and I was like, yeah, you for a while, because I acknowledged they hadn't released anything.
And Sony doesn't do a lot of first-party stuff to begin with.
Right.
But it seems like it's depressing to think that they're just like, no, we shouldn't bother with Vita development.
Basically. And it's interesting because I saw their reasoning as saying, we feel that we have a strong enough third-party lineup or support that we don't need to do that. But I also don't know if I agree with that necessarily either. Mm-hmm. I don't know a lot of developers that are making much Vita stuff, because it seems like that was a very, a flash in the pan kind of thing. It was a very quick sort of, hey, the Vita, onto the PS4. And like, that was really it.
Yeah.
So, and I love that system, but I feel as if it was like their tech demo at E3 where they were picking up, cups of water, virtual water. I was like, oh, that's going to be really cool. And they're like, yeah, this is going to be cool. And then you never heard of it again.
Yep.
And that makes me sad. And even though everyone's done that, and Microsoft has done it, everybody's tried to do something and said, this is going to be great. You guys are going to be so excited. And then it comes and goes, and that's it. That's technology and experimentation.
And this is probably a fault of mine more than anything. But here's the weird thing is that I don't want a Kinect, right? I don't want to. The main thing is I don't want to use a Kinect while using an Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
But the thought of buying an Xbox One without a Kinect is upsetting to me.
I can see that. That's actually the reason I haven't gotten rid of mine, because I don't like its existence. But I feel as if I remove it, I'm taking away a component of the system's functionality.
Yeah. Like, it still works great with the Kinect. You're never going to use it for a game ever again, probably.
No. I pretty much just say Xbox record that or Xbox turn off. Those are the two things that I say to my Xbox.
So it's weird. It's. I feel weird about that. But yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm sad that the Vita seems to have really just dropped, but I've also felt like this for a while, like that nothing's been happening, and so that's just all there is to it.
I like having choices, and I think like the 5th generation consoles were probably ultimately not my favorite, but it was my favorite time to be involved in gaming, because there was just every 3 months a new console was coming out, and like, what can this one do? Is it going to be the one, like, is this the Super Nintendo killer? Is this the PlayStation killer?
Right.
And they were all almost universally terrible, but it was so cool to have like that excitement that like, whoa, I haven't played a 3DO before. Like, what's that
Yeah.
like?
It was thrilling. What's the Neo Geo? Yeah.
And now I feel like, oh, the Vita's dying. That's okay. There's too many consoles out right now. Anyways. And it's
Yeah.
because they're not, because of that era,
Mhm.
there's really no measure for deviance. You either make a system that behaves like a PlayStation or an Xbox or a portable version of one of those, or you're Nintendo doing their own thing, and that's it. If anyone else tries anything, you're just like, ugh, no, that's gonna.
Not gonna happen. Yeah, I'm not comfortable enough with this to care.
Yeah.
And everybody keeps saying Dreamcast 2, Dreamcast 2. As a theoretical, I would love that, but it wouldn't.
No, it
It
would.
does.
I would have to really. It would have to change things in a way that like the Wii didn't, right? Because the Wii changed things a lot,
Mhm.
but ultimately here we are, 10 years later, nothing's changed.
Right.
It didn't work. It sold a bunch. It made Nintendo money in the bank.
Yep.
But it did nothing to affect the way we play games.
Now, ultimately, it was like a really interesting, like a flash fire, a flash in the pan. Very lucrative for them, but it was definitely just a, hey, this is really great. We're riding it for longer than normal, and now we're back to the formula.
Yeah. So what the Dreamcast 2 would have to do something in the way that the Dreamcast 1 did with like online, and with the way that the PS2 did with being a DVD player. Like the Dreamcast 2 would have to be like a built-in 4K TV or like dedicated VR, but even then, like I feel the way about VR that I feel about the Wii, where like it'll either tank or it'll be really popular for a few years, then the developer's gonna say, like, I don't want to do this. So I don't know. I don't know what the Dreamcast, like if the Dreamcast 2 transformed into a moped that you could drive around town, but you'd also like you'd gain experience for your Grandia 4 party members for every mile that you drove. Like,
or they partner with Kindle or something, and you're allowed to read ebooks on your Dreamcast Super VMU 2.
Yeah. There you go. You just take 2 tablets and you plug them into the back of the controller.
Yeah, I don't foresee, things changing for a bit, and I don't know how it's gonna affect things. It's gonna be an interesting market in the next decade. So I want to see what the NX is gonna do. I want to know, what Nintendo's plan is, because for better or worse, they're fine with just doing something because they want to do it, and I think it's a good quality, especially right now. And it may not work. It may not at all. It may do nothing. But I'm excited because right now, the next, Tomb Raider will play like a Tomb Raider game, but it's going to look better than the other Tomb Raider games.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to have like Lara Croft, intimate dressing wound system like Metal Gear Solid 3, where you apply salve to her cuts.
Or like foam Lara Croft like gloves and boots that you have to put on and do everything that she does.
Yeah, you climb up the wall with your huge Hulk fists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people want to see big changes, and big changes are fine and interesting, but they rarely, because you're basically asking everyone to make that change with you, right? Mm-hmm. It's like 3D movies came out and Avatar made a bunch of money, and everyone's like, well, we've got these 3D glasses, we've got 3D projectors, but at the end of the day, not everyone wants to make 3D movies. And eventually the people that don't want to make 3D movies are going to keep not making 3D movies, which is why not every movie is in 3D, which is why 3D movies kind of died off again.
Yeah, because it's not a standard. It's an option that's outside of the norm.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Something that is really cool that's happening. I don't know if you heard about Gran Turismo Sport.
No, I did not.
It's the new Gran Turismo game they've announced. For PS4. They haven't said if it's going to be like considered 7 or just like a spin-off sort of thing. But it is sponsored by the FIA, which is the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile. And so they're going to have tournaments for the game online, and people who participate in the tournaments and win are going to get actual FIA trophies, which is the same kind of, it's the same governing body that regulates Formula One racing. So
Wow.
the esports side of Gran Turismo is sanctioned by the same organization that handles the real world sports side of motorsports. I think that's really cool. That's like if the NFL gave you a Super Bowl trophy for winning a Madden tournament.
Yeah, which I think would be fantastic if like you really, dedicated enough time to being the best at that. If you were recognized by the league, like the actual league.
Yeah.
It's a really cool thought. That's a cool thought. Integrating any of those real world, I mean, yeah, like you're thinning the line. You're bringing people into it, and ultimately, hopefully, what it'll even do is these people who play so much Gran Turismo go, "What if I have a shot of actually doing this?" And they decide, like people who play Rock Band, and they eventually say, "I want to pick up an actual guitar."
Yeah.
If you, introduce these concepts to people and make that appealing enough to where they go, "What if I actually did this?" And I don't know if that's really the plan, but getting actual official recognition and an actual trophy is a very, very, very cool concept.
Yeah. It's intriguing to me, like, and I like Gran Turismo, but I think there are going to be people out there who are like, who it's kind of a cocky mentality, but to be like, I think I have the skill to get into this game for the sole purpose of winning this trophy.
Yeah. A trophy, man.
And it's not like a gaming, it's like a real sports, like a giant gold like column with a globe on top.
Yeah.
And they haven't announced like how long term this is going to be, but they've announced 2 like leagues that they're going to do, and one of them is a Nations Cup. So you drive to represent the country that you live in, and it's going to be competitive that way. And then the other way is a Makers Cup. So you represent like, oh, I like Fords, or I like Nissans.
Okay.
And so you're on that team. You're on the Nissan team. You're on the Honda team.
That's fun because you're really taking like what people love and they want to represent, and they, I think it's a really cool way to embrace it. Dang, man, that actually is really, really neat. I like this idea.
Yeah, so I saw that yesterday, and I was like, "That's cool."
Okay, that sounds pretty great. I'm impressed. What else? I feel like there was some other bit of news that was kind of intriguing.
Sega apologized for like the last 10 years of Sonic games.
They did, yeah. Which always makes me sad because like I don't like when a company apologizes for doing what they do.
Yeah, you made a game.
Yeah, I think it's a cool, but it always sucks to be like, hey, we think this is gonna be cool, and we hope you do too. And everybody goes, oh, this sucks so bad, and you're like, oh, we're sorry. It kind of sucks because I don't think they owe anybody an apology, but I think it's nice that they did it.
Yeah. Like people are like, oh, well, they should apologize. And it's like, look, are you like trying to tell me? I'm sure at some point, right? People at Sega were playing Sonic 06 and not just QAs.
Mm-hmm.
Like you play the finished product. They had to have known what it was, and they accepted it and rolled it out. So I'm sure Sega, if they really thought that lowly of it, would have delayed it to work on things, and it would have been Sonic 07 instead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's arrogant as a consumer to be like, well, my trust was displaced. Like,
right. Yeah, somebody else's product did not meet. My ownership of what this is supposed to be was betrayed. Yeah. The Mass Effect ending. I'm still, no matter how many hours I put into a game, if I get to the end and the ending sucks, oh well, man.
Yeah,
like
you had hours and hours.
So many times, like, I'm not gonna speak for everybody, but I do think it's an extremely arrogant thing as well too, to be like, I spent 3, games in the series playing all the way through the end, and I didn't like what you guys chose to do. I don't know, man. Like,
if you watch a TV show, you watch a TV show for 5-6 seasons, and you don't like the series finale.
Yeah.
Well, you still watched a lot of TV.
Yeah, and I liked it, which is why I watched it. And it never would have even occurred. Like, I watched all the way through Dexter. I watched the ending. And I was like, oh, the ending sucked. It does not invalidate the entirety of the show. And I certainly don't think for a second I would even, entertain the idea of writing the Dexter guys and saying, rewrite the ending. Like, that's absurd to me. You know? Like, even if I wrote like the best book in the world and the ending sucked, and somebody was like, well, I demand a new ending. Not going to happen because that's my story. Like, that's just, I don't care, that's not your story. Write your own story and do an ending that you like. Somebody else is going to hate it.
Yep.
Apparently the ending was universally lauded, but nonetheless, like, happened when I beat Karnov, it immediately said game over.
Yep. And that's more insulting because there was an ending to that game and they edited it out in North America.
They didn't give it to us. And I didn't write them and say, you better put the ending back in my copy.
Yeah. I demand like, Karnov 1.1.
Yeah. I was like, cool, I beat Karnov. I've never beaten that before. I'm proud of me.
Yeah, yep. I beat Jurassic Park for the Super Nintendo last week, I think it was, and the ending was terrible. But I loved the game. I enjoyed the hell out of the game. So, okay. Like, I think a lot of it is partially, it's a generational thing too. Like, guys our age, we don't take endings like for granted. If the game has a good ending, it's like, wow. Yeah. But we've played through so many games that had terrible, terrible endings or no ending.
Yeah.
That it's not an expectation.
I don't even think about it. Yeah.
You know what I'm always blown away by, and this kind of plays into this, is Final Fantasy games usually have really abrupt, like unsatisfying endings.
Mm-hmm. They do. Most of them. Absolutely.
Because you've been playing this quest, this story for like 40, 50 hours, and it's unfolding at just the right pace, and the world is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then you beat the last boss, and you see like Cloud, like look over his shoulder, and then the credits roll, and then there's a post-credit scene that's not really related to the story, and then game over. It's like
dinner at a table or something. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? It didn't even occur to me to be like, what the fuck? Square, what did you guys do? Like, I demand a better closure. I was like, I guess that was the ending that they made. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, and that's all there is to it. There's literally nothing more to it than that. Even games that I play for like a great story, games that I purposely, because I don't really play games for story, but if a game has a great story to get invested, I play it and I beat it and I go, well, the rest of the story was good, and if 95% of the story was great, then I can't be dissatisfied.
Right.
I don't know. I also can't remember half the endings I've played in video games, and like, so it doesn't affect me at all. I was just thinking of playing through A Link Between Worlds again because I loved that game. I don't remember the story at all. I remember like the characters. I don't remember why they did what they did. I don't remember what happened when I beat the game on any level. I just remember playing it and enjoying it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's just me. Some people want a good story, and that's fair, But
I'm one of those people. But like, if the story, like, you have to think about it in terms of the medium, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you start the game, let's say it's an RPG because that's like the easiest story genre.
Yeah.
So you start the RPG and you're in Act 1 of a 5-act play. You're in the town. You're just like a kid. You got no responsibilities. Everything is cool. That doesn't make for great gameplay, which is why that's usually a very short part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Acts 2 through 4, where the action is building and then something climactic happens, then it's the falling action. How do we deal with this world-changing event? All that makes for good gameplay. Act 5 is resolution. The fight is over. The battle is won or lost.
Mm-hmm.
So and the only game I can think of that did this well is Earthbound. But if you had to play like another 5 hours of a game where the conflict has already been resolved after playing 40 hours of conflict, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would you like, oh, I killed the last boss, I saved the princess, now I have to rebuild my house that this dragon burnt down at the beginning of the game. So I've got to go to the store and buy wood, and then
Yeah. The climax usually isn't the very, very end of anything. There's the climax and the resolution, and Yeah, Earthbound is one of the few that, like, yeah, once you're done, there's a genuine sense of relief because you also get to see like how things are affected afterwards for yourself.
Yeah.
ToeJam and Earl actually did something similar where you beat the game and you go to Funkotron and then you can just walk around and talk to people. And they're like, well, hey, man, it's cool that you made it back. You know, let's go hang out. And there's something kind of fun about giving me the chance to re-explore the finished world afterwards.
But if every game did that, it wouldn't be special.
That's also true.
And a lot of games would fail at that because their world building wasn't sufficient, or it's just not that style of game. Like if you could go, you kind of can, but if you finished like the Skyrim story and then you could just walk around Skyrim and be like, oh, you're that guy that can kill everything. Like take whatever you want from my grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah. Nico asks a quick question. How about all the Back to the Future 2 stuff that happened last week? Did any of you guys watch the trilogy in honor of the date?
You did.
I actually only watched number 2, but we just wanted to do number 2 on October 21st at the shop, and we had about 20 people show up, and it was a lot of fun.
I did not. I like Back to the Future, but I was kind of in that group of cynics who were just like, stop posting stuff on Facebook about it. I didn't want to like say it because I think it's cool that people were excited and like celebrating it, and that they're great movies, and like all the reunion stuff with Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd were really cool. But I was just like, I don't care anymore.
That's fair. It gets overwhelming, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But,
I did see a hilarious post today where it was cross-posted from someone else's Facebook, but it was this woman, and she was like, well, since everyone's like freaking out about how Back to the Future 2 happened in 2015, like were people this excited for Back to the Future 1 in 1954?
Oh yeah. I laughed at that.
It was really funny.
Very good.
Even if it was completely staged, like the idea of someone just being like, well, they had to have celebrated it. It was the same day.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt it was definitely trolling, but I laughed a lot at that as well too. It makes me laugh. Things like that make me laugh.
Yeah.
The problem with 99, those little feeds and articles, is most of them are fabricated just to like look funny.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And that's a shame because a lot of them are really funny, and I wish a lot of them actually happened. But I definitely get skeptical of a lot of things. You know, not like, oh, that's Photoshop kind of stuff, but like, you know, here's the 20 funniest pictures like that my kids drew in class or whatever.
Yeah. Like,
And, like,
look at these hilarious test answers.
Yeah, and someone was like, I'm pretty sure you just did that and you took a picture of it and said it was your kid. And, you know, I don't like to be that guy either, but like in a lot of cases, I think people do that.
I saw a BuzzFeed article today that was like 19 words that mean something completely different to New Mexicans. And it started off with premise, you know, it was like Christmas. Like, yeah, Christmas means like Christmas to a lot of people, but here it's like you have red chili and green chili on the same plate. Like, yeah. Or like balloons, like we think of hot air balloons, whereas most people think of like helium balloons.
Yeah.
But then it just totally derailed where it was like, oh, well, like most people think of Taos as that place where Julia Roberts lived, but we think of it as a place where artists and creative people and skiing. And I felt like what it was is someone was like, hey, what about like 5 words that New Mexicans think are different, have different meanings? And the editor was like, good, but make it 19.
Okay.
And the person's like, I can't, like, what, hatch instead of, that was one of them. It was like that thing on Lost, but New Mexicans know it is this kind of like town where chili is. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Or Blake's was one of them. And I was like, the possessive of Blake.
Yeah. That's ours. Mr. Radon.
Yes.
I want to show you something real quick.
The world?
I'm going to show you the world shining and shimmering and at the same time splendid. If I have anything similar. Okay.
Xbox 360. No. Yes. Hey, oh, it's the HD DVD drive, huh?
Yeah. It looks like a white Bible,
Yeah, it does.
like with a vent. When you're reading it too fast.
Yeah. When you get to the stuff about fire and brimstone.
Right, exactly. Yeah, this is the thing. We had this in the store for like 3 years, and finally I was like, I'm just taking this.
Yeah, you're gonna be
It's funny
hard
for my
to
collection.
sell that.
Ever going to buy it because it's like, what do you want to buy with your Xbox? Because the selection of movies is like up to like 50, I think, and there was like 7 movies with it. Heroes Season 1, Blood Diamond, Swordfish, The Departed, Transformers, Shaun of the Dead, Fearless, Serenity, and Planet Earth. And I've never watched any one of those things. Well, I've like watched them not on HD DVD.
Yeah. What if you just tried it on a lark and it turns you're like, I like this so much better than Blu-ray.
Yeah. You're just like, dude, no. I mean, Betamax, right?
Yeah. Or like people who listen to their music on vinyl.
Aficionados, yeah. There's something out there for everybody. Xbox HD DVD.
Yep.
I cannot. But I did. Well, I think there was some other little bit of news that I was excited to talk about. It might have just been games in general. I picked up the Uncharted collection for PS4
Nice.
because I'm excited for Uncharted 4. And I thought, I tried playing through Uncharted 1 a couple of years ago. I never played it when it first came out. And despite the fact that I'm very impressed with that game on many, many, many levels, I'm not really that into it. I'm just playing it because I'm playing it.
Yeah.
And I've heard, from several people that 2 and 3 are leagues better,
True.
from game nuances and, the cutscenes and the presentation. And I mean, 1 for its time, especially looking at this game, and I'm very impressed. It's a beautiful game. Drake's a likable character. It's a very active dialogue. Like, it makes you feel like you're really playing a fun cinematic game. Controls are a little bit loose. There's some weird glitches here and there. Some objectives aren't.
Well, you're playing it on PS4 though, right?
I am.
So you don't have to deal with the worst part about Uncharted 1.
The grenade.
The grenades, yeah.
Yeah, I was talking with Pat about that. He goes, "How's the grenades working?" I was like, "They're fine. Why?" And he was like, "Oh, they don't use motion control." And I didn't actually remember that, which sounds terrible.
Yeah. You have to take your controller
Yeah,
and go like that.
yeah. And it's like, how would
And
I
it
just aim?
never works.
Yeah, I'm just gonna aim. So I like the aiming mechanic because you don't have to do that. So the gameplay is fine. I don't think it's tremendous, but like it's fine. Again, it's great. The score is pretty good. And because I respect Naughty Dog's developers so much from like their presentation and like the amount that they put into making you feel like you're in like an action movie. After seeing 4 at E3, I was like, man, this just looks so solid that it's hard for me to like not want to like respect the company to play through all these games before I get to 4. So I picked it up so I could go through the whole series and try it out and see if it was good. And 1 has plenty of issues, but I respect it and I enjoy it and I'm having a good time.
2 starts off great. Like it's just
That's what I hear.
from the get-go, you're just like, wow, okay. Like 1 was good. I wish that I could have experienced it like as new games. To play 1 and be like, I'm so blown away by this. Like, yeah, there's some things I would change, but I'm so blown away by this. And then to go from that to 2 blind and it's be like, oh, like this is so much better. Naughty Dog makes great games. They really do. And I think the only knock that I have against them is they seem to just be really susceptible to trends.
Yeah.
Like Crash Bandicoot, like they're never going to go back to that because that kind of game isn't stylish anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did Uncharted, they did Jack, and they rolled with Jack for a long time, and then that kind of game wasn't stylish anymore.
Yeah.
Like they're so great at what they do, but they seem like so uncomfortable bucking from what people in general want.
Hmm.
Like I don't think they'll make another Jack. I think in 5 years they'll probably not make another Uncharted. I think that once the zombie craze finally gives out, like there's not going to be The Last of Us 3 or whatever.
Yeah. I agree. They seemed, and they seem to also sort of be shoehorning multiplayer into them. I can't say for certain how those are, but I feel that those games don't need that.
Yeah, I remember I downloaded the Uncharted 3 multiplayer because it was free as a standalone option. You could just download it on your PS3. And I
Yeah.
downloaded it
Interesting.
because I was like, cool, like, yeah, it's a free game. I'll download that. And I never once played it because the idea of playing multiplayer Uncharted just didn't
Zero
make
appeal.
sense.
I find
Yeah.
no interest in that. Yeah, that's weird. That's very weird. Did you hear about, was it Games Radar? I don't remember who it was. Somebody who went to like Tokyo Game Show or something, and they were playing the this is so embarrassing. They were playing the Uncharted collection, and they had no idea. They thought it was Uncharted 4. And so this guy was playing Uncharted 2, and he wrote this big long thing. He goes, "Man, it just seems like these guys are running out of ideas. This feels like a been there, done that kind of thing." And Naughty Dog is really like they're losing their steam. This is just a rehash of their old games. and so to their credit, the big thing they did is they looked at that article and they were like, "Oh my god!" They didn't delete it. They didn't pretend it didn't happen, but they straight addressed it entirely and were like, "Guys, we messed up, and I can't. And here's why we messed up. But yeah, this is 100% our fault, and we're not going to pretend that it's not there." But yeah, holy crap!
That's really funny.
It's either a testament to how good Uncharted 2 looks in HD, or that that they were choosing somebody to review this game as a legacy game, thinking that or legacy series. Who's the guy who should try the Uncharted 4 demo? Oh, get the guy who tried all the Uncharted games. He's gonna know how to write. And so it makes you say, did you actually play these games? Did this not look familiar enough to you?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I thought that was really, really funny.
It is.
But he and I got a divorce, and he took all the cats.
Oh.
Yeah, it sucks.
Well, I mean, now you have a lot of room for yoga.
I could do a lot more yoga now that I don't have cat poop everywhere.
You can eat a lot more yogurt on anywhere, really.
Yeah,
That's the hard thing about having pets is that you can't just like lie on the floor and put a cookie in front of you and try and pick it up with your tongue.
No, it's because there's hair on the floor, or there's other diseases, or the cats will come and like try to eat it or step on me.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
It's not.
Yeah. When I adopted you, cat, I didn't sign up for this, but I have to live with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to not have any pets so I can eat cookies wherever I want.
Yeah.
Out of the garage.
You could just like tie a cookie to the like garage dangly like emergency release thing
Oh, yeah.
and just like jump up and take bites out of it.
Or I could stand in the middle of the garage with the garage door opener and click the button and have the cookies slowly like come to my face.
Yeah. Now we're talking.
This is it. This is bachelor life, man.
Like I love when people do stuff like that where they're like, I'm gonna put a lot of effort into doing the laziest thing I could think.
Yeah. Ferris Bueller. Like, yeah, I'm excited to eat my cookie. I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to record it because there's no reason not to at this point.
Yeah.
Also, if everything goes well, I should be signing the lease tomorrow.
Oh, exciting.
It's been a month, like a very long month of wanting to do that already, but we had to get everything all ironed out. And I'm excited now to, I'm pretty sure I still have to submit a couple small like queries and, potential amendments to the lease, but I think we should be good to go tomorrow. So I'm excited. However, I think it's getting to be that time. We've done this for a good solid 2 hours. We started a little bit late, but we had a great, I think this is one of our better podcasts.
Well, thank you. That's the podcast.
Yeah, you're one of the, that's what I thought. Wow. Well, you're welcome, podcast. He just sounds a lot like you. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, I'm the dad.
The dad of the podcast?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You're the
You-
mom.
Your vocal, your dulcet tones.
Right. Yeah. But it has your eyes.
He does. They're poo-poo brown.
Is that like, have you gone to Sherwin-Williams and like got the color?
Yeah, I did like yeah, the color code. Yeah, or in computer code it's like 04AAF4. So, what I want to do is I want to thank a couple people.
Do it.
I want to thank both Morgan and Aimcast, two fantastic gentlemen who run the site screwthetruth.com. They are responsible for putting our podcasts online, for transcribing them into audio files so people can listen to them on the go.
Hopefully, one of these days they'll start transcribing them into text, so you can
yeah.
read them on your Kindle.
Yeah, oh, that would be nice. We should get a speech to text thing.
Yeah.
Transcribe them all ourselves. That'd be really funny. Just leave the inaccuracies up there.
Yeah.
They do their own podcast. They host a bunch of other stuff on their website. Again, screwthetruth.com. They're both super cool guys. You should totally check out their podcast as well too. I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah. I want to thank DJ Pop Pop Balls for being on the show earlier.
Yeah, I'm mad that I missed him, but you know, I hear he's a good guy and he's got some good theories in life, but you know, we probably wouldn't get along that well because I don't smoke.
Yeah.
He does.
He'll smoke you.
He probably would. If I were to die, I'd let him though, you know? Because like if his thing is to smoke, I'll just let him smoke me if that would make him, you know, better.
That would be the sequel to How High.
Is this How High 2 or like would it have a different name?
I think it would just be How High 2 because the plot. Do you know the plot to How High?
I watched it. Yeah. They smoked Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah.
Or was
I
it,
thought they had like a smart friend who died and they smoked him.
that might have been it. And then they smoked the presidents later, didn't they? And like presidential affiliates.
Maybe that was How High 2.
Maybe. I thought at the very end like they smoked like Thomas Jefferson or like
Yeah, probably.
I don't remember. And Nico, you know, I do actually want to thank Nico. He brings us up because let me tell you about Nico. He's one of my favorite people in the world because I feel bad because I don't like get the chance to talk to him that often, but he does show up to our podcast. He asks us good questions. He also, you should check out the Wee Guy. What's the number?
Something 09. 309?
Whatever the case, if you check out like the Wee Guy, what Nico does, and this is actually a very important thing because it's basically the preservation of musical integrity for video games. And he does stereo on YouTube, goes online and turns NES music soundtracks into 8-bit stereoscopic, not for your eyeballs, stereoocular
That's
files.
also eyeballs.
Right. Stereoarular. Arulic. This is not.
There's a reason. There's a reason why it just says stereo or mono because the actual words are so stupid.
Okay, yeah, this is not stereo. Turns these files into stereo sound files so you can listen to them, and the integrity of 8-bit music in stereo is actually really cool. It's especially neat because it's different than what you're familiar with. Since most of you played NES games on mono sound TVs, but to have them in an actual like dynamic stereo sound is really, really neat. Stereo secular. No, I'm just gonna make these up. But yeah, you should check out his stuff. And We Guy 309. We Guy 309.
That's my favorite song.
That's the best song. And it's really, really good. I met Nico because he came into my store once several years back. He happened to be in town for the Balloon Fiesta with his family, and we hit it off. And it turns out he runs this great channel, and he's been listening to us and supporting us ever since. And he's just a good fellow, and you should check out his stuff.
Absolutely.
Anyway, Michael and I are going to elope.
Yeah, we're gonna celebrate Halloween with my dad.
Yeah.
We're gonna play all his favorite spooky games.
Right. What do you think his favorite spooky game is?
Chiller.
Oh yeah, yeah, he would like that.
Yeah.
Get high and just blow off body parts.
Yep.
Good. All right. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
We will rock you.
We will sports rock you.
We will jock jam you.
We sports you will rock you.
We sports.
We sports. Oh, and you can go to garetro.com. I'm going to be retooling the website in the coming months. I want to do it sooner, but that's just not going to happen because of things going on. garetro.com is going to have more content. We have facebook.com/gamersanonymous, as well as our Instagram at garetro, our Twitter at garetro, and the GA Retro community page on Facebook, which is actually probably the easiest outreach for us to communicate with anybody at any point.
Or go to the store, you dum dum.
Or yeah, go to the store, you dingus.
Buy something.
Buy something, will you?
Yeah. Try not to carouse.
Oh, cool. Wow, that's so cool. Oh, wow.
Oh wow.
Wow. Wow.
All right. Take a deep breath. Let it all out. Think about macaroni.
I'm thinking about macaroni. Okay. That's it. Thank you guys for watching, and tune in soon for another episode of The Cyber Zone.
.com.